Come on, man.
Yeah,
There we
here we
go.
go.
Okay, welcome everyone to She's of Love. And today we have an exciting and an episode I always look forward to whenever we talk to Rachel because I don't know,
Yes.
I feel like we always find out so much that we have so much in common more and more as we speak. And you just have so much beauty to share with the world in what you say and in your stories and what you've learnt. And I know I walk away with many treasures after talking with you.
I agree.
Yes.
And just in case, because people next door are building or doing some construction or something, so if you hear noises, that's where it's coming from.
Yes.
Because we're at the front of the house, so
Yeah.
they're right there. Yeah.
So, the topic for today is around the collective consciousness and raising the vibes of the planet, and also how that correlates to healing our physical planet, our physical environment, and Mother Nature, because I've found that they're very closely linked. So, I guess the question for you, Rachel, is what would you say you do in your personal life to raise your consciousness and to raise the collective consciousness? Because really, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah, what a beautiful and thought out question, Juliet. I love it. Okay, so I do have a story to tell about this, so I'll rewind back a few years. So for me, you know, it was around about 2012, maybe 2013, where I had this moment in the shower where I was like on my knees and like, oh my God, tell me the truth. What is happening? And I heard these words come in as clear as day. And it was, you know, to be, if you want to know the truth, are you ready for the truth? Because once you know the truth, you cannot unknow the truth. And I was like, okay.
Sounds like
Um,
a red pill to me.
it certainly was. It certainly was. And then sort of from there, there's been this unfolding, and there's been contraction and unfolding, and so over the years in the shower, I would get these what I would have called downloads, but I tend to sort of refer to them these days as insights, because it's an unlocking from within that I already know, this deep gnosis within me. And for years, I kept getting these messages about the water. And I think I've spoken to this before in one of our other conversations. So, yeah, over the years, these downloads or these insights would come in about the water, but it wouldn't give me enough to really know what that actually means. But
Yeah, I
I
know that.
would do all these things to purify water and be around water, and fast forward to this current time, and I'm currently in a container with a beautiful mentor over in Canada, and it's a healing the womb container, and it's my second time in this womb container, but I've actually been working with this woman since about 2018, and just recently in this container she talked about the sacred living waters, and my whole body just went, oh, here it is. And so probably about 18 months ago to years ago, I had this insight about the water, and that is uh, the how do I want to say this, that the water is everything, and there's so many different structures to the water. It's frozen and it's fluid and it's steam, and it's, even as we speak, there's these little molecules of water that we're breathing in and out, and even in the rocks, there's water is everything. And a couple of years ago, I stumbled on Veda Austin's work as well, where she works with the hydroglyphs, as she calls them. So she'll put some water on, say, a photo, or she'll have a thought or an intention that she'll put into the water, and she'll freeze it, and it will actually, in the freezing of this water, it'll have a picture of what is her intention.
Wow.
And so again, when I sort of stumbled on that, again, I was lighting up, knowing that this is something that I'm here to do, and I'm not alone in this, because there's other people that are having these same insights about the water, and so I also believe that as we purify ourselves, the work within ourselves, and purify the waters within us, our bloods and the fluids, the interstitial fluid that runs up and down the spine, and we come from water. We were born in the womb from water. So I think part of my role is about this purification of the inner waters and the waters that we see in and around this earth. It's her that's been poisoned. Um, they talk about water being programmable, and I think thousands of years ago the program was to poison and suppress the water. And I also feel that this is why they don't want the ice to melt, because there's so many codes and keys within these sacred waters. So for me, collectively, I think, and if you look at Veda Austin's work, you can put some, what she refers to as dead water, like tap water that's had the life sucked out of it, next to some pure spring water, and it will start to, the ripples of that energetic force of the pure water will start to bring this other water back to a higher vibration. So I think as we walk this planet and we're purifying these bodies and ourselves, collectively that ripples out. And that's my theory on it anyway. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I like that theory.
I have something to add to this, because I saw the other day, there was these pictures being shared of water that had been collected from springs, rivers, that sort of thing, puddles, rain, and they basically got a thin layer and put it in the freezer. And then they took it out of the freezer, and there was no programming or like intention put into it. It was just, let's see what happens. And the water would freeze in pictures because it holds memories.
That's
And
right.
so it would freeze in, and it would actually show you visually where that water came from. And there was like a picture of a deer, a picture of, oh my god, like just anything you could imagine. So I encourage people watching, next time you come across natural water, probably not from the tap, although try it, I don't know. Um, yeah, rainwater, river water, because I've been meaning to try this, and then freeze it and see what picture comes up, because it will actually, the water is telling you the story of its past, and it shows you. And another thing that I wanted to add as well was how you were saying you get dead water, like tap water, and natural, like, well, all water's natural, but like
Living water.
living water. Yeah, thank you. Um, and you would put it next to each other, and the living water would raise the vibration of the dead water. And I want to speak to this because I know it sounds very um, like illogical, in like it's very spiritual, but when you put a scientific mind to it, it doesn't make much sense. But we've got to really think about this, because in nature, this is how, like nature makes no sense and nobody's talking about it. Like birds know to migrate when it gets cold, and they know to migrate down, well, depending on what hemisphere, north or south. Um, the bugs and
You mean the innate knowing of nature?
just innate knowing and an ebb and flow of all things that come together. I mean, mycelium in the roots of trees communicates with the trees, and a whole forest. Scientists are now discovering that a whole forest isn't a bunch of trees; it's one living organism.
That's
because
cool.
all the trees are connected, and when this is 100% true, is say getting attacked by parasites, then other trees will, the tree will like send out I guess, a help signal, and then the trees will then send like
Nutrients.
yeah, pheromones, kind of like
Yeah.
similar to pheromones that are like antibodies, I guess, or like repellent to the trees. To, I mean, if the tree's already infected, it's kind of already done. But to the trees around the infected tree, it's like a whole living organism, and it all works together
Yeah.
to prolong its life, to heal, to I mean,
It's
it
kind
is,
of what Pandora's like in Avatar.
yes,
It's like
that's
that.
real. That is real.
Yeah.
Pandora is real, and we're here experiencing it.
Yeah.
And so, when you were talking about water, what really came to me was what you're saying is so true, even down to a scientific level.
Yeah.
Because I think the defense that I mean, I know I have conversations with people about this, and the defense on their side is, oh, but that doesn't make any sense, and that's just woo woo, and this sort
Mm.
of thing. But it's not. It's
No.
not woo woo.
It
It's
it
so
only it
accurate.
doesn't make sense. Like what they're saying is it doesn't make sense, but it's only not making sense because they've never heard it before. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's
And
not
and that
widely known.
and their water memory is still under this program of this overshadow, this overlay of this frequency fence that has been holding us down for so long. But when you can start to break through that and bring these waters within to life, and they start to ripple out, it's to me, when this stuff was coming in and as the pennies were dropping, it was like, oh my god, this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then when I have to try to explain it to someone, it's like these words just come out of my mouth and people look at me like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yep.
But it's singing to the water. I sing to the waters, and when I'm pouring my tea, or when I'm refilling my water bottle, when I'm in the shower, when I'm down at the beach or down at the creek, I'm singing to these waters, because those waters will go and touch the hands and feet of other people, and they're being touched by these living sacred ancient codes, that we're bringing to life again. So
So Rachel, my question then to you is, do you think, like the trees Juliet's describing, that send out these signals to each other that there's something happening over there, or there's information that's needed over here, or whatever it is, do you see that as like we are similar, if people are similar, that we are made up of 90% water or something,
absolutely.
so that when our waters are purified and raised in vibration, then that can then send out signals to other people?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I agree with that, because what I've noticed in my own experience in the last, say, year, is I was back in 2020, 2021, I was very vocal about the things that I was discovering. And I realized through that journey of being very vocal that I was actually stepping on people's toes in a way that wasn't received very well. And all my intentions were really good. I just wanted, like, because I was like, oh my goodness, like I see this now, and I wanted other people to see what I was seeing.
Yeah, for sure.
Particularly loved ones and friends and people like that, and they weren't ready to see it or hear it. And so I became very observant instead, because of course, like you just said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So it wasn't like I could crawl back into my hole and not know anymore. And I had to find another way of dealing with things. So I became observant of the world, and I started to see things differently because I couldn't use my voice. So I had to use other means of getting the information out there.
Yep.
And counterintuitively, I connected with like-minded people even though they were not really the people that I was trying to wake up,
Yes.
in a
Yeah.
sense. So from that standpoint, I was learning more and I became more knowledgeable about how to get the word out and how to conduct myself and how to live my life, and in more accordance with the way I was feeling. And now what I'm seeing in the last 12 months is that people are coming to me.
Yes. Yep.
So there's definitely a change in me, in my vibration and the way I deal with things, because that fear isn't there anymore.
Yes.
And I'm not rushing around going, wake up, can't you see it? I'm not doing that anymore.
Oh, the way you said that.
Yeah, so
But that's
now,
all part of the journey, isn't it, too? That you can then have that reflected back to you.
yes,
And you see it. And I guess it also feels like it's knowing that by doing what we need to do for ourselves is enough.
yeah, that was huge. That was a massive realization for me, because of course in this life it's all about doing. It's all about doing. I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
How can I do more? How can I change this? It was all that going on in my head and in my body as well, to a certain extent. And then when I started to realize being is enough,
Yeah.
and part of that was turning inwards and starting to learn why I was doing certain things the way that I was, and doing that shadow work that we talk a lot about, and getting myself in a position where I'm vibrating differently.
Yes.
Now life is like, it's almost like an attraction. People are just, events are happening and people are going, oh, to me, like there's certain words that they pick up on, or there's a certain way I'm doing something that they pick up on.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what's going on? And they're like, yes, I know what's going on. And then we start talking, and
It's like that tiptoe
yeah,
to both parties being like, oh,
yeah.
we're in the same boat.
And then there's hugs, it's like, oh, I've got another person that I can talk to. I've got another person who understands.
Well, it's just people coming into that frequency resonance, isn't it? Yeah. So as you hold the frequency, people will start to move, and then as you continue to work on, on your heart and your inner waters, and raise that frequency, it's how we, and the earth is raising in her frequency. So we're all working together, and collectively that's how I feel we raise this
so totally true. Because what you're describing is actually what's happening in my life.
Yeah.
And I never, like, that was beautiful to hear you guys talking about the trees and the water, and because I never correlated it, I never really put those things together.
Yeah.
But in the conversation, I've realized actually I see that the way the trees are communicating is very similar to the way we do it too.
Yeah, I mean, it is so wild that, like, what goes on beneath our feet all the time, 24/7, whether we're crying and miserable or whether we're aware of it, it doesn't matter. It still happens.
Yeah,
and
that's a beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, and I think if we all, because I don't know, I know that when I was growing up, nature was seen as
outside.
Yeah, outside and very separate, and also it was, words like intelligent was never like associated with nature. It was never a being. It was just,
it's there.
yeah. And you know, I
Yeah,
obviously
that's true.
came out of that belief very quickly. Because even when I was younger, I mean, there was definitely a time where I was under that belief because it was school was throwing it, everywhere was throwing that belief. So there was a time that I believed it, but then when I was really little, that was never the case. Like,
Mm.
and I heard, I think I was listening to a podcast or I don't remember, but I was listening to something and someone was saying how, and this is how I view children as well. So they were saying the birds never look at the sky and say that it's beautiful because it is the sky. The bird is the sky. And I feel like that is the same with kids. I mean, we
Yes,
still
so
see
true.
beauty, but it's not separate from us. The sunset is beautiful, but as kids, I never remember like looking at the sunset and being like, whoa, it's so beautiful. It was just me being me and playing with the mushrooms and things like that, and then getting sick on airplanes
Yeah.
because I did vomit on an airplane once after
After
playing.
eating mushrooms.
So, you know, and I viewed that our base belief when we first come in to this life, and then eventually we grow up and we separate ourselves from nature because our brain does that naturally, whereas
And the
animals,
people around us.
well, yeah, but also like naturally our brain, like us and the sun are very separate in our brain. Like we're not the sun, or we're not the trees, or we're not
But
the
is
ground.
that because we're being taught that we're not the sun? Because there are some cultures who believe that they are part of,
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah, but I
And they're
think
taught that the sun is made of the same stuff and we're all
yeah,
part of an ecosystem. And
I think that's yeah. I think you're right about that. I think where I'm coming from is like there's actual neurological reasons for us to even fathom being separate, whereas animals don't have that part in their
yeah,
brain.
right, that
So
consciousness of it
yeah,
about it.
so
Yeah.
they're just living their life as a squirrel or whatever, and they're not, you know, thinking, oh, this is a tree. Like they're not thinking that's a tree. They're thinking I need to get hoard my
That's my
Yeah.
shelter and that's my food source.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have that thought. I mean, maybe it is when you go to a primal level and you're like hunting and you're living off the land and you have to use the tree to survive. But you still think if you have language and you have understanding, you still think that's a tree.
Yeah.
And I forgot what my original point is, but basically we're the same as nature. um, yeah, and we're not separate. We're literally the same thing. Like I've seen comparative images between
Mm.
veins and roots,
Yes. Yes, that's right.
eyes and space and like galaxies.
Hmm.
Like your iris
Yes.
is is literally so freaky to look at. It's actually crazy, and it looks like space. And like all these comparative images, our body is
Nature.
nature. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
It
no
is.
denying that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think when you don't look after the planet, like say you throw rubbish on the ground or throw rubbish into the ocean, which is even more unspeakable, how dare you, um, then I think that also damages ourselves when
Totally.
when we like eat, I mean, not even eating factory farm, but just that factory farming is a thing in itself. I think damaging animals, damaging their bodies, and also damaging the land that they're living on is also damaging ourselves, whether or not we eat it. As a collective, it is really like lowering the vibration.
Yeah.
Mm.
So if you think about the universe as a one body and each of us is a cell,
That's right.
and we are as a cell in that big scheme of things consuming, nitrates and cancer causing this and cancer causing that, whatever it is that we're consuming, our lifestyle isn't conducive to a healthy
Right.
being, and your mind and everything, you're basically killing yourself off in that bigger body of the universe, and that in our bodies is like a cancer. If
Right.
our bodies can't rejuvenate, if our cells can't rejuvenate and continue to grow like a family does, then that part of the body dies off, and can create great sickness
Yeah.
for the whole.
Yeah. We are the
And
micro, the
so,
macro. Yeah.
yes, as above, so below, all of that.
All of that.
So it's like, we do matter, even though we're one cell in the body. We do matter in the grand scheme of things.
That's right.
So our choices matter.
Yeah. And where your money goes is also a choice, and I find
Yeah,
where you put your money is where
it's
your
what
vote.
grows.
Yeah, that's where your vote is.
Yeah.
I wish more people understood that, how powerful that is. Like, where you put your money is a vote. Like, and that is a very strong vote.
Yeah.
And one that the higher ups and the people who are watching and making decisions, it speaks to them.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to come to the surface, and I think there's a lot more people that are starting to pick up on that, and that is how we move forward with those choices, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think Juliet's generation and younger, I think they are starting to really get it. Because it wasn't in my consciousness growing up. It wasn't, my mum was about what can we afford that? Like, and you would only buy something expensive if it was like you really, really needed it, or it was something that you needed longevity out of.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, everyday things and things that weren't that important, like she would buy probably the cheapest thing. And that's not, the cheapest thing is not necessarily the best thing
That's right.
because of the
It's
way
designed,
it's manufactured and where it
it's
comes from.
designed that way. Yeah.
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 I've got another question for you, Rachel. In terms of the planet and taking care of the planet, because I find that as a reflection of taking care of yourself, as we just discussed, and therefore connecting to the collective consciousness. What do you do personally to reduce impact? I don't know, to help the planet, to heal the planet?
Yeah. So just like in day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, I shop at a farmer's market and I use cash, and so when I'm shopping there, everything is, there's not plastic. It's all in paper bags, or and then I reuse those paper
Yeah.
bags. Drives my daughter insane. Or when I'm doing the recycling, I'm taking off the lids and cutting off the little other plastic bits so that, and then throwing them in the bin so that animals, don't get
Yeah.
caught up in them and stuff like that. And Terrence's going, "Well, you're so weird, Mum, that you do that," And I'm like, it's just my part of doing what I feel is right in the world, for me. I in terms of water reduction and stuff, I shower only 2 to 3 times a week. One, because the water has been contaminated and my skin doesn't like it, and just to be conscious of, I just, of course, if I've had a day out in the garden and I'm filthy and stuff, well, then I'll go and have a shower. But if I'm on my computer and just pottering around the house, I don't need to do that. I can just, give myself a wipe down and that's fine. So I'm conscious of that. And that's been a big change from like being in the military, because there you're forced or trained, conditioned to shower twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. So
Wow.
over the years, it's just been that pulling back of those habits, you know. I don't know. What else is there? That's just the basis of it, really.
Yeah.
But
Well, which is still quite a lot.
just tuning into it as well, and if I do, I don't go out to eat that often, but if I do, I just make a conscious choice of where I'm going. I'm lucky where I live. We have an organic cafe, and I know that all the stuff that they have there is organic, and everything is made from scratch. And I don't like how my body feels when I'm putting things that haven't been made with love, so to speak, because I feel that in my body as well. So yeah, that's how I sort of contribute.
No,
Yeah.
I really
The organic cafe is a good one.
Yes.
yeah, I really resonate with everything like that you said. Even just taking, I mean, what is with the culture of showering today? Of like
Yeah.
needing to shower every day, sometimes twice a day. It's quite literally insane. I've never understood it. Even like
Well, you weren't
growing up.
raised like that. Like my kids, we don't live like that at home. Like water is precious.
Yeah, especially in Australia with like all
Mm.
the droughts and everything.
Yeah. So when they were really little, they would bathe together.
Yep.
And then when they started to not want to do that, then one would go first and then the next one. And then sometimes even Spence or I would get in if it wasn't too dirty.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
would share the water. And it wasn't like we're all family. Like and people are like, that's so gross. Like, why would you do that? And it's not gross. Like, we don't do that anymore. We each take a separate shower or bath now. But when they were little,
Little. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I did the same.
yeah, it's like they weren't going to the gym and sweating and
Yeah.
they were
That's
just
right.
little kids. So yeah, like they've been raised to think of water as something very precious and that you don't just willy-nilly waste it.
Well, and
Of course,
Juliet would have been a child when we had all those water restrictions come in as well. So it was something that became a part of her life.
yes.
So
And we just continued it.
that's
We
right.
just
Yeah.
continued doing it because we found for us that it worked. If it
Yeah.
wasn't working for us, we wouldn't have continued doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, like Bryn's, he trains virtually every night now. He plays AFL, so he's training all the time, and he comes home muddy and dirty. And of course, he'll have a shower when he gets home to get all that off. But if we're not doing anything, then
Yeah.
there's no need.
Neat. That's right. Yeah.
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 There's so many. I think with all this messaging about the planet dying and blah blah blah, I really don't resonate with that because can I just say, no, the planet is not going to die. We're going to die first.
Exactly right.
There's no chance that like we have to save ourselves. It's not about. I mean, okay, the animals and the environments, like, yeah, that definitely has to be a focus. But in terms of, oh, the planet's going to die, the planet is not going to die. We're going to die. But I think with
I don't
all
think we're
this,
going to die.
well, no, I don't think we're going to die either. But like, if
In
anyone,
that narrative, it doesn't
yeah,
make sense.
in that narrative, it doesn't
Right.
make
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. So, I think with all this, I will say programming around this like big story, people tend to overcomplicate it. And some people go like full zero waste. And you know what? All power to them. That's so great. But I think then other people are like, oh, well, no way can I do that. And then
They feel guilty.
they feel guilty. And
Yeah,
then it's just
that's
like a
not
guilt
good.
cycle. And they can't, I think it's just very overcomplicated. Like it really is just things like showering when you need to, not because like not every day.
Yeah.
Unless you do need to shower every day because of
Yeah.
like
Your
work
job or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toilet flushing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Me, toilet flushing
Yeah.
and public toilets where people leave taps on and things like that really irk me. But yeah, so here we only flush, every second or third time we go to the toilet, of course, unless we really need to,
Yes.
a really big evacuation. Well, of course we flush. I'm not going to leave
Yeah.
that there for someone else. But yeah, but that's another one where I just feel there's so much waste, of precious water,
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all just these little habits that we, I think we've judged the habit as being disgusting.
That's so wild.
But for what reason, really? It's like growing up, I used to ask my dad about his village and, how he grew up in his village and how life was. And life was very, very different for him than it was for me growing up. Like the world changed quite a bit in that time. And what was normal for him then would have been considered really hard or really disgusting or really, alien to me growing up.
Yeah.
And I think that if he survived doing that and he was, he turned out completely fine, then, he's physically fine and he's like alive, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been that bad.
Right.
To
This is what
grow
we're
up in
accustomed
the
to.
village.
Yeah.
I mean, of course I don't want to go down to the river and cart water home. Like I'm not going as far as that. But it's checking in with your judgments on things
Yes.
and why you're judging it as being gross or, because when you're in a position like Australia was when Juliet was little, where there were really severe droughts, things like that were necessary and we all survived.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
also, to add a perspective to that, if you, like, as an individual, if you find yourself judging something like that, be grateful for the judgment because it means you're living an incredibly privileged life. And that's not to say issues don't matter, but you are. Like, modern day society, we're so lucky that we don't even think about getting water because it's just so easy. We don't even worry about, being clean because it's just 10 steps away. And, it's so easy. So when we do judge these things, I know when I judge these things, I always do my best to, like, observe it and be like, oh, well, I'm lucky I'm judging because
I'm in a
it's a
position
really
to
good
judge.
indicator on my quality of life.
Yeah.
Very true.
So one other question that's come up for me, for you, Rachel, oh my gosh, for me, for you, is around what do you, like, to anyone watching or just to the world in general, what would be like one thing you would want everyone to do to raise the vibration or the consciousness of society and everything?
As a collective?
As a collective. Like one thing everyone could do, whether it's a physical thing or an embodiment.
That is a good question. I feel that I know the world will just keep turning, but I feel that if we can slow down just to really listen and be kind to ourselves, because as we've been living this life of doing and going, and we've forgotten to, and there's people out there that are selfish and will show up as selfish, or we're reflected to us as selfish, but I feel that we've lost that ability to tune in and be kind to ourselves. And I think by doing that, that's that same, that as within, so without, then that kindness and that flow of just natural beauty is going to be rippled out into the world. And I think that creates that flow and effect, that everything is connected, so everything feels that, everything and everyone, the animals, the birds, the trees, the waters, so. And I know it sounds really corny and really simple, but I think it's a really hard thing to do. And if you've been on this journey like you have, Claudia, and Juliet, it's, we go, yeah, I'm kind to myself, when you're giving yourself a day off, or, but I mean, really, really, really be kind and gentle to yourself. Really.
Consistently.
Yeah. And just, don't be so hard on yourself for that thing that you did 20 years ago. Like, really listen to your body. Really listen to your body. And I have to say that, especially this week, I am in it. Like, my body feels like it's burning up from the inside. Like, I am on fire. Like, I'm inflamed, and I have a injury in my left arm, and my hips are sore, and my skin feels like it's being stretched. And it's almost like there's this embodiment happening, that there's this greater being of myself is trying to squeeze into this body, and all the parts of me that I have been unkind to are really feeling it right now. So I don't know, there's probably more to that, but I just think if we simplify it and bring it back down to just simply listening and being kind to ourselves, that then is reflected out to the world.
Yeah. And I think simplifying things is a kindness to oneself.
Yeah.
Making things as simple as possible so that you can keep doing it. Because when something is too complicated and burdensome, we're not interested. It becomes like overwhelming.
It becomes a chore.
Yeah.
The pleasure is taken out of it.
Yeah. So keeping things simple is really
and things
part
are
of,
simple. Like,
a lot of the time,
really, the truth is usually the most simplest thing, and sometimes that's not always the easiest to look at. Just because something's simple doesn't mean that it's easy.
That's right.
And like, the going to the gym has been a huge example of simplicity for me, because usually when I have a goal in mind, I start off keeping it simple. I want to be healthy. I want to be my fittest self, healthiest self. But then when I start walking that path, it gets a lot more complicated, especially because it's hard. And also, I'm watching TikToks on like workout things, and when you start doing that,
we like to complicate things, don't we?
It invites more information to come in, and then you find out this person doesn't think cardio's good, whereas this person does think cardio's good, and then it's just like, and it just gets so much information.
And you're not present to what you actually,
to what my body needs.
Yes,
and what I need. Yeah, exactly. And it started off innocently of like, oh, I want to do a different workout, so I'm going to have a look at this. But then it just gets so much more overwhelming.
It's all a trap, isn't it? There's all these baits laid all the way. And I know for me, I fall into these traps quite often. Whatever trap's been set, what's that? I'll have a look at that, and bang.
Yes. And then I have to come back to, well, why did I start this? Why am I here at the gym? Why do I want to be here? What's pushing me? And bringing it back to
the basics
of and like my starting point, and in terms of mentality. And that's what you have to do to remain consistent. At least that's in my experience. That's what I have to do, is always coming back to the original point along the way, because there's so many off trails that curiosity takes you down.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a really good thing and it leads you to somewhere beautiful, but other times it is like stepping on that trap analogy. Like, and you
Or
can
playing
get
snakes and
lost.
ladders, you're making some progress and oops, you're back here.
Yes. And when you lose progress, especially in things like where you have an end goal, or even actually not always when you have an end goal, but yeah, is when you do fall down this, fall down a couple
Rungs
rungs, yeah,
on the ladder.
on the ladder. When you do fall down, it's like your ego thinks that you're back at square one, when really you're not. But whenever you take steps back, your ego makes it seem like it's a disaster, when really it's actually probably going to help you launch. It's like a slingshot type scenario
Yeah.
a lot of the time. And you want to give up when you lose progress. And that's when it's important to always come back to, like, whenever you start, whenever I start a project, or I have a goal, like again with the gym example, I always set intention, and then I come back when I'm feeling really lost,
Mm-hmm.
and I go back and because I always write it down, and then I'll read it again, and I'll tap back into that energy of like, why am I even here? Because sometimes I forget.
Yep.
And so I think that would be my advice, or not advice, but my answer to the question I asked you, is always setting intention, with always having intention in everything. And simplicity is always key, because everything really is simple at the end of the day, like how you were saying.
Or even if it isn't simple at the beginning, it can be like once you get into it, it becomes simple because it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
You embark on something that seems difficult at the start, and then when you get into it, you adjust to the process, and then it becomes more simple. And that's I think that's part of growing and part of learning in life.
And gentle persistence as well is something that I've recently heard about, which is a combination of the masculine and the feminine coming together, because we need masculine in order to see progress, at least in any linear way. You have to be consistent, and that's the masculine, but also the feminine needs to come in so you don't burn out, and so you're actually embodied on this journey, and so you're actually receiving, and that's the gentleness and the kindness, like you were saying, and
Balance.
And
Balance.
bringing those two. No, it's so accurate. Like, and this is what I was saying when I introduced you. I always walk out with little nuggets of wisdom when I speak with you, because you activate things within people, honestly. Because how you were saying, it's not a download for you anymore, it's an insight, because it comes from within. And I really resonate with that, and that's another little nugget that I received. But you activate things within people that were already there, but you like get in with your torch, and you just pick out all the things that need to be heard, and they really do deeply resonate. So I'm really just so grateful that you are on here today.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, we're at an hour now.
Really?
Well, it's 11. We can go a little bit longer because we were
that was
a little
quick.
bit late.
Yeah, we came on a bit late.
So we can go over.
Yeah, do you have any more questions?
Probably.
Do you have any questions, Rachel, for us, maybe?
No, but I would like to, I feel like I would like to share a bit of a song that it's sort of been coming to me. It's a song that I actually heard on my Spotify list a while ago, and I kept humming it and playing around with it, and then I heard it while I was in this container as well on one of the calls, and it sort of activated this I don't know, something within me anyway in terms of the waters. And so this is when I say I sing to the waters. And I shared it with a friend in Queensland a couple of weeks ago, and she said, well, can you write it out for me so that I can sing it to the waters up here? And then I was connecting with a couple of ladies in this area the other week, and they I was on their land doing some work, and I sung it to the land and to the waters there. And she's like, oh, my granddaughter's always looking for a song to sing. Can you write that out for me too, so I can let her sing it to the waters? So I sort of feel that maybe I'll share it here today, and it might activate something for others to just, while you're in the shower, you know. And for me, and this is probably a little bit weird too, but even when I'm flushing the toilet, and you know, the waters that are the waste waters that are then sort of, once you're flushed and it's gone and no one thinks about it, I connect with them, and I bless all of the waste and dark waters that are being taken away and going on their journey to whatever happens to them after they've been flushed away. So yeah, I really want to sort of bring it back to the water. So I'm a bit nervous because I'm going to be. So like, it is a song that is on, and I can probably send you the link to the Spotify one. So, but I've changed some of the words for what was coming through for me at the time, as we're going through this collective healing and this collective connection.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. So the actual song's called Mother of the Waters. Mother of the waters, Mother of us all, can you hear me calling? It's time to heal us all. Mother of the waters, Mother of us all, Mother, can you hear me? It's time to heal us all. It's time to heal us all. It's time to heal us all.
Oh, wow. That was beautiful.
Thank you for choosing to share that and for facing fear and doing that, because oh my gosh, wow,
your voice is beautiful.
You're gonna hear me sing that all the time now.
Good. And I think that is going to have just a beautiful effect on, you know, your own sacred living waters within you, and then everyone that you sort of connect with it'll just be raising that vibration just in such a subtle but powerful way.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it gave me goosebumps. Yeah. I loved it. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And you have a beautiful voice as well, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should never feel embarrassed about sharing that with people, because it's really lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
Mwah, thank you.
Thank you. What a way to end.
Yeah.
We've never ended, I don't think, with a song.
No.
You're the first. So.
Oh, I've been a first a few times, haven't I?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I feel complete. Do you feel complete?
Yes.
Do you feel complete, Rachel?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for receiving and witnessing me in that. So that was beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And thank you for it. Was really a gift, like that we can use
to sing to the water.
Yeah.
I'll be doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Every time I flush.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you everyone for watching,
yeah.
and we'll see you next week.
All right, Rachel. Bye.
Okay.